Hello, and welcome to this example on percentages. Alana lives in a condominium in downtown Toronto and works as a business analyst. They earn an annual take-home salary of $76,800, and every month they spend $1,400 on rent, $550 on car expenses, $250 on a line of credit interest payment, $800 on miscellaneous expenses, and save $1,500. The first question is, what percent of their monthly take-home salary are their monthly expenses? And then in part B, we have Alana's financial advisor suggested they invest 15% of their monthly take-home salary in a mutual fund. The question is, what percent of their current savings would this amount be? And for both parts A and B, we need to round answers to 2 decimal places. What we have right here is what we call a percent problem, a problem that involves percentages. And to solve percent problems, we can do various things. We're going to use a formula that relates 3 variables that every percent problem will contain. Every percent problem contains 3 variables, namely base, denoted by B, and that is the whole quantity or value. Then we have the portion, denoted by P, and that's a portion of the whole quantity or value that is usually determined by the rate. The rate is denoted by R, and the rate is the relationship between base and portion expressed in percent. The rate usually carries the sign percent, but is used in a decimal or fractional equivalent in calculations. There is a relationship between these 3 variables that can be expressed as follows. The portion can be computed by multiplying the rate by the base. The equation we have right here is the relationship between portion, rate, and base, and we will get to use this formula right here to solve both parts A and B. Now notice that if we have the rate and the base, then we can compute the portion this way. But sometimes we need to compute the rate or the base. To compute the rate, given the portion and the base, we do portion divided by base. And to compute the base, given the portion and the rate, we do portion divided by rate. Okay. So let's talk about how to solve this problem in particular by using those formulas we have right there. And I'm going to erase them just because I'm going to write them again once we need them. So let's start with part A of this percent problem. The part A is about finding a percentage. What percent of Alana's monthly take-home salary are their monthly expenses? Because we're looking for a percentage, that means that we're looking for rate. Remember that rate, the relationship between base and portion, is expressed in percent. So we are asking about the rate, finding the rate. And because we need to find rate, we need to have the portion and the base. So let's see what the portion and the base are. So what percent of their monthly take-home salary are their monthly expenses? We're seeing the monthly take-home salary as the whole. usually the base, is what follows after of, the word of. So the monthly take-home salary is the whole here. Monthly take-home salary, that's the whole. And the portion is what is left after we pick the whole. And the whole is monthly take-home salary. So then the portion is the monthly expenses. So we're going to find R given P and V, and we should be able to find P and V based on the statement of the problem. So let's see. The monthly expenses can be found by adding expenses that Alana has. So let's see, every month they spend $1,400. Let's write 1,400 on rent, and then 550 on car expenses, $250 on a line of credit interest payment, and the last expense they have is $800. Then the monthly expenses add up to the addition of all those numbers. If we use a calculator or anything we want to add those numbers, we find a number 2,450. The monthly expenses are $2,450. Now, on the other hand, the base, that is the monthly take-home salary, comes from taking the annual take-home salary and dividing it by 12. So we take the annual take-home salary and divide it by 12, because we have 12 months in a year. That way we get $76,800 divided by 12, and that equals 6,400. So $6,400. Okay. And now that we know the portion and the base, we can find the rate. Remember that portion equals rate time base. Then the rate equals portion divided by base. And here the portion is $2,450. And the base is $6,400. When we divide those numbers, we get the rate. And that rate will be 0.382813 and some other numbers, because we need to give the answer in terms of a percentage. So we were asked about the percent. Then we're looking at 38.2813 and some other numbers percent. And we need to round the answer to 2 decimal places. Then we go with 38.28. We take those 2 numbers that follow after the dot. We leave the 8 as it is because we have a 1 after the 8, so no need to change the 8 to a 9. If there was a number like 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 here, we would change the 8, replace it by a 9. Now we have that Alana's monthly expenses are 38.28% of their monthly take-home salary. All right. %38.28% is the answer to part A of this problem. Let's move on to part B. For part B, we get to use the same equation that relates P, R, and B. And we get to use that equation more than one time, as we will see. So let's see. Alana's financial advisor suggested they invest 15% of their monthly take-home salary in a mutual fund. What percent, again, we try to find a rate, what percent of their current savings would this amount be? And what comes after the word of is the whole. So their current savings is the base. Would this amount be? That amount is the portion. We're trying to find R, and to find R, we need to work with B and P. So what percent of the current savings would this amount be? Now remember that P is R multiplied by B. Then, just as before, R equals P divided by B. The rate equals the portion divided by the base. Now, here, the base is their current savings. And currently, Elena is saving $1,500. So here we have $1,500. Okay. And the portion is the amount the financial advisor suggested Elena invests in a mutual fund. So here, what we have on top is what the advisor suggested they invest. In a mutual fund. To find how much the advisor suggested they invest in the mutual fund, we need to find the percentage of a quantity. Because the financial advisor suggested that Alana invests 50% of their monthly take-home salary in a mutual fund. So we need to find this P, that is what the advisor suggested they invest. We need to find 15% of Alana's monthly take-home salary. So here P is 15% of Alana's take-home monthly take-home salary. Okay. Salary. And to find 15% of Alana's monthly take-home salary, we use this same equation that we have right here, P equals R times B, but with different variables. R would be 15%, and the base would be the monthly take-home salary. So 15% gets multiplied by the monthly take-home salary, and that was $6,400. Okay. So here we're applying R times B, but with different R and a different B. R is 15%, and B is the monthly take-home salary. There we have that. And when we multiply 0.15, that's the decimal representation of 15%, by 6,400, we get the quantity 960. Okay. So then the original R we were looking for turns out to be $960 divided by $1,500. And when we compute this quantity, we find the number 0.64, and 0.64 corresponds to 64%. 0.64 is the decimal representation of 64%. So we have that the amount invested in the fund would be 64% of Elena's current savings. And that 64% corresponds to $960. So the advisor is suggesting Elena that they invest $960 in a mutual fund. Okay, this is the end of this problem. If you have any questions, please write a comment and I will be happy to help you. Just to summarize, we solved a percent problem. We got to use the formula P equals R times B various times. P corresponds to the portion, R corresponds to the rate, B corresponds to the base. And here we have a nice application of percentages. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.